Hey guys, welcome to Franklin Woodworks. Recently I built a portable vocal booth for recording my voiceovers, but my son confiscated that along with my microphone. I bought a new one, but the stand that came with it was too small and I had to lean over just to get my face in front of it. In addition to that, I've been toying with the idea of a shock mount for the mic, but since the mic is a big ball, my options were limited and expensive. I wanted a boom, but that was expensive too. At least I thought it was expensive. I've already built my own camera boom, and a mic boom can't be that much different, and I thought I'd give making my own shock mount a try while I'm at it. I'm going to use plywood for everything so that I don't have to worry about which way grain is going to affect the strength of the parts I'll be cutting out. I ripped some 1/2-inch plywood into 1-inch strips, 26 inches long each. For the center joint, I draw out an equilateral triangle and cut off the corners. Over at the bandsaw, I cut out 2 of these triangles, making sure they're both exactly the same. At the drill press, I drill a 1/4-inch hole in each end of the plywood strips and 2 holes on 2 sides of the triangles. It's important that the holes on each side are the same distance apart, and in this case, it's 2 inches. Now I'll tackle the shock mount. The mic is a 4-inch sphere, so I'll make 2 plywood rings with a center diameter of 6 inches. I'll also add a triangular piece on each ring so I can mount it to the boom. I cut out the rings on the bandsaw. Rather than setting up a circle cutting jig for the router so I can cut out the center of each ring, I decided to just cut through the edge of the ring, cut out the center, then glue the ring back together. The way the shock mount is going to work, all of the force on this glue joint is going to hold it together, not force it apart. The first ring I cut out very carefully so that only a minimum amount of sanding will get me to my lines. The second ring I didn't worry about so much because I knew I'd use the first one as a template to route the second one so that they would be exactly the same. I mark out the spots where I'm going to drill the holes for dowels. These dowels are going to be used to suspend the mic in the center of the ring. But before I drill those holes, I'll attach the 2 rings together with double-sided tape and use a flush trim bit to make sure both are identical. Back over to the drill press to drill the holes for the dowels. I do this while the rings are still stuck together so the holes line up. I also drill a hole in the triangle tail that I'll use to mount the rings to the boom. To start assembly on the shock mount, I glue in dowels only on one side. I made the dowels long enough to leave a 1/2-inch gap between the rings. The second ring will not be glued on so that I can take apart the mount for any reason should I need to. For the joint between the shock mount and the boom, I'm just going to use circles with 3 holes in each. I use a simple circle cutting jig on the table saw to cut 4-inch circles. Now I have to be able to mount the boom to the desk, so I make a simple base. The battery on my camera died, so I can't show you the process, but I think you get the gist of how the base went together. I wanted to have enough surface where I could clamp the base to the side of the desk. I'm just not ready to drill holes in my desk until I'm sure this is the design I want to stick with. Now it's time to assemble everything together. Everything is joined with 1/4-inch bolts and locking nuts. The tightness of the bolts is what will regulate the stiffness of the joints, and locking nuts will stay put once you have everything adjusted. To mount the mic onto the plywood rings, I use giant rubber bands and hair ties. There is a shallow groove that runs around the circumference of the mic, and it will tend to keep the giant rubber band in place. The hair ties go under the giant rubber band, and each hair band gets its own dowel. The second plywood ring is a tight fit, and it will keep everything in place. The shock mount gets a 1/4-inch carriage bolt with a knob for tightening. So here it is. I think I will probably remake the joints, increasing the size and the width of the holes so I will have more range of motion. But all in all, I think this was a success. Feel free to succumb to any subliminal messages that may be present and like, subscribe, and share. And comment if you need to. Thanks for watching, and there you go.